Hi, welcome to The Groove. Story from the film No One Will Save You 2023. The story follows a homeboy who is alone and isolated. Anxiety-stricken must fight fear when a mysterious creature attempts to invade his house. In a house located on the edge of the forest, the story opens showing a girl named Brynn. Brynn carries out his daily profession as a clothing maker.
That day Brynn had just finished one job and was getting ready to go deliver food.
But when outside, Brynn saw the grass in his yard withered into a small circle. Brynn just watered the grass and then he left. On the way, Brynn managed to greet his neighbor, but the man did not respond in a friendly manner towards him. After sending his order to the mailbox, Brynn went to the cemetery to remember his beloved mother. There he greeted several people who also did not respond to his greeting. When he arrived home, Brynn stopped for a moment to pay attention to the warm relationship between Maudie's parents, a childhood friend and neighbor. Brynn recorded the moment in a letter he addressed to Maudie. That day, Brynn received the package. Then he continued his day happily without wanting any distractions. Even Brynn was too lazy to answer phone calls. Until night fell, Brynn didn't want silence to disturb his soul. He fell asleep, leaving the silence with the music still on, and went to dreamland. In the middle of the night, suddenly all the lights in his house turned on, then went out, along with a gust of wind. Then a stomping sound woke Brynn up from his sweet dream. He calmed down a little, when he thought the sound came from the lid of a trash can blowing in the wind. But when he went downstairs, he found the door of the house was open, and from the side, he could see the shadow of someone walking. Brynn slowly stepped back. Not long after he heard the figure make a strange sound, Brynn tried to remain silent. But the figure saw his presence and was afraid. Brynn immediately ran to his room and hid under his bed. The creature came into the room. His figure was strange. He looked for Brynn, who was afraid, just watched silently. Seeing the window open, the creature went out onto the roof. While Brynn felt fear overcoming his confusion, Brynn immediately closed the window, then went to lock the front door. Suddenly the lights came back on, surprising Brynn. He hurriedly turned off the television and music player, which could invite the creature's arrival. Brynn tries to use the phone, but hears a strange sound from behind it. Then strange movements begin to occur in the house, while the figure turns out to be inside and is seen descending the stairs. Brynn hides again, and when the figure starts to get closer, but a strange force starts dropping things and pulling Brynn. In his fear, Brynn grabs a sharp object. Then spontaneously Brynn stabs the figure, which turns out to be an alien, right in the head.
Dalam kebingungannya, Brynn terlelap dan ia terbangun di pagi harinya. Kemudian, Brynn menutup tubuh alien itu sepertinya Brynn ingin merahasiakan perbuatannya ini dari dunia luar. Brynn pergi meninggalkan rumahnya. Di perjalanan, ia melihat mobil pengantar surat sudah terguling. Tak jauh dari sana, di halaman tetangganya, Brynn melihat lingkaran rumput kering seperti yang ada di rumahnya. Tak hanya satu, bahkan terdapat beberapa lingkaran di sekitar.
After that, Brynn went to the city to go to the police station, and there he met Maudie's parents, but at that time it seemed that both of them really hated Brynn, as if something had happened to Maudie in the past.
Dengan syok Brynn keluar, ia mengurungkan niatnya untuk melapor. Brynn melewati kota yang terlihat baik-baik saja. Kemudian ia menaiki bus di mana ia bertemu dengan pengantar surat yang saat itu terlihat berkelakuan. Dengan agresif, pria itu menyerang Brynn sehingga sopir harus menghentikan laju kendaraan dan Brynn segera berlari hingga ia sampai di pemakaman tempat di mana.
At that time, suddenly black clouds appeared covering the sky of the city. Brynn ran away until he reached his neighbor's house. He saw the strange behavior of the neighbors pointing their hands towards the clouds, and it seemed that there was something in their throats. Brynn arrived home to find blood-like spots from the alien's body, leading to his garden, who doesn't know what happened, but in his confusion, Brynn only tried to survive by preparing hot water and covering all the doors and windows in his house. Not long ago, suddenly a light shined on his house, and then one by one the nails started to come off and suddenly the door opened. Then the light pulled the alien out of his house. Brynn felt relieved for a moment, but it turned out that the arrival of the light was also intended to bring down the other aliens in his house. Brynn continued to avoid being chased by a small alien who appeared to attack him. He managed to bite and free himself, then douse him with hot water. Just kept going until he was trapped in a room, holding on with a broom handle and using it to stab the alien until it penetrated the cupboard. Then Brynn came out, but he stopped when he found out the presence of other aliens there. From beside him, suddenly a letter carrier appeared dropping Brynn. Then the man dragged him into the forest until he met another alien right under the spaceship. Luckily, Brynn managed to get away when the plane released a beam to attract him. Brynn ran back into the yard, chased by a large alien. He entered the car and managed to trap the alien in the car. When the aliens continued to rebel, leaks began to occur. This opportunity was used by Brynn to burn the car and blow up the aliens inside. But in fact, it wasn't finished yet. The plane came back to catch Brynn. He hid in his room where Brynn was seen still keeping photos and writing notes for Maudie. The alien came back into his room from behind. Brynn approached quietly, but his strength threw Brynn away, destroying the wall, until finally the alien made Brynn stiff. Then he brought out a small creature to control Brynn's body. Slowly the creature entered Brynn's mouth and continued to move towards his throat. At that moment, Brynn seemed to wake up in his bed. Then Brynn vaguely saw Maudie coming to him. That's when Brynn apologized to Maudie for what happened to him. Then suddenly Brynn seemed to have the strength. Brynn put his hand into his throat. Brynn realized he had managed to get the creature out of his body. The creature crawls quickly under the plane, where the light turns it into another Brynn figure until here it is known that the purpose of the alien's arrival is to take over control of the world by first living in a clone of a human body. It turned out that not only one, but many planes were carrying out this work simultaneously. Seeing this, Brynn fled into the forest. In his flight, Brynn stopped when he found his clone already in front of him. The clone stabbed Brynn with a wooden branch until Brynn started to get weak. Then Brynn took advantage of his negligence to attack him back. Brynn managed to defeat the clone. Then he left, but he wasn't safe because suddenly a light pulled him into the alien ship. Brynn wakes up among the aliens around him. When the creature touched his head, Brynn looked back at the past where he was still a teenager sitting with his mother. Then the light took him back to the yard and saw Maudie's father crying over his daughter's death. And it turns out that earlier that day, Brynn was involved in an argument with Maudie. Maddie pushed Brynn to the ground, and that's when Brynn, who saw the stone, grabbed it and hit Maddie, which accidentally killed Maddie and became Brynn's regret for the rest of his life. From that moment on, Brynn started writing letters to Maddie containing an apology and whatever happened in this world, in the hope that Maddie would forgive him. This could help Maddie understand life in this world. Brynn sees himself, who was sad when he was a teenager. Brynn touches his hand, then he wakes up in a tube with aliens all around him. Suddenly all the aliens are pulled away, while Brynn falls on the street where he was previously pulled. Return to his house and prepare to face a new day for him. When she woke up in the morning, Brynn started her day with a happy smile. She dressed up beautifully, then went to greet her neighbors, who seemed to radiate a friendly and happy atmosphere. Even that night, Brynn attended a party and danced with them under the city sky with the shadow of an alien spaceship above it. And the story ends here. Several times this film suggests that the aliens and Brynn's fear are just a symbol of the turmoil of guilt that continues to haunt him, until finally Brynn manages to get rid of all his fears. He makes peace with his guilt and starts his happy life. But when he sees the alien ship in the sky, another. The conclusion depends on the point of view of my own judgment. I prefer to look at this story from a psychological point of view. Everything that happens is a picture of how Brynn tries to recover from his guilt. Brynn admits that he is sorry and apologizes and tries to be a better person in the future.